I was an atheist for years after problems with my parents, and then became a Christian because of a supernatural encounter.
Well, in the entire history of the human species, I am unfamiliar with any God that has been supported by sufficient evidence to warrant belief. I'm not claiming necessarily that it doesn't exist. I'm saying I don't have good reason to believe it does.
Welcome back. So, okay. There's no good reason to believe a God exists. No, I'm not here to give any evidence of God. Many YouTube channels already taken on that mandate. And there are many good sound arguments that point to a creator, that point to, even if you put science on its own, these things could not just have happened on their own. There's just too much that points to that. So I'm not here trying to give any evidence of, look at this. Have you looked at this? How about this? Did you consider this? Even in his word, it says in Romans 1:20 that man is without excuse. Just by looking around you, you are without an excuse. Think about it this way. You go to the passport office to renew your passport. And you get there, the clerk, the agent, someone attends to you, and they check your documents and they realize, oh, you're missing a very important document that we need. You have to go get this document, you need to fill this in and then come back. Who is at the disadvantage, you or the agent? People are acting as though God is the one at the disadvantage. God is the one that's the clerk. You're the one that's coming to renew your passport. People act like, God, go home and get your proof, get some more documents, and when you come back, we'll see. That's not the way it works. You see, whether or not you believe does not change the heat in the lake of fire, does not change the activities that are happening right now in hell. It does not change that. It does not change anything. It does not change God's existence, the angels, the fallen angels. It does not change any of those things. So you can just say, well, I don't believe. Go get some more proof. That pit of hell is still going to welcome you with open arms if you drop down and die 10 seconds after you say you don't believe. So don't have this false, it's a false sense of security that, well, if I don't believe, God has to just go home and get more documents and come back. No. No. That's not how this operates.
So the number of people who believe something has no impact on whether or not it's true.
Might I add, the opposite is also true. The number of people who don't believe do not impact whether or not something is true. FYI.
Likely source of a religion is from your parents, and that's cultural transmission is really what that is. And so if you think that religion is culture and it's transmitted from parents to children, then of course a lot of people believe, and a lot of people believe the same religions as their parents. And as Matt says, it doesn't mean it's true. It just means that people are acculturated to it.
The transmission of religion. So what about all of those people who were born in those Islamic countries that have had no Christianity upbringing? Their parents never told them anything about Christianity, but yet via some dream or vision, they've encountered the Most High, and now they're believers. What about them? Was that also transmission via culture, via their parents?
Things there. First of all, is getting to the probability that there could even sustain life on this planet, and the probability that we could even
100%.
conversation, especially this many. It's 100% probability that this could be happening right now.
There's life on this planet, right? So the probability that this planet can sustain
Right.
life is 1.
But the probability that it came just by chance is borderline next to nothing.
It's not borderline next to nothing, but no matter how unlikely it is, it happened. Now, the question then becomes, what is the explanation for why this planet can sustain life? Now, we know that it's possible within the laws of physics, within natural law. What's the probability that a God did it, and how did you calculate that?
So here's a claim that the earth is possible within natural laws and by the laws of physics. Can you give us a walkthrough? Can you walk us through step by step how all of this became possible naturally? Tell us how. Tell us how the blood evolved, how it found the bones, how did they even know that they would need each other? Tell us how. Could you walk us through? Could you tell us how did the tongue know that it would need taste buds? And how did the limbs know that they would need fingers and toes? How? Tell us. Walk us through step by step how all of these things, they just knew. Tell us how matter became conscious and started thinking and having emotions and having thoughts. Tell us, through physics and natural law, how matter became conscious and started to have opinions and thoughts and emotions. How?
Conscience and our moral behavior and the fact that we're prone to love. There's
All of those things are completely irrelevant as to whether or not a planet can sustain life.
Agreed.
See, let's say I dealt out a hand of cards, and you pick up your hand and you have a royal straight flush.
Right.
Did I cheat?
The probability that you cheated is very high.
Okay. How did you conclude that?
Just based on statistical evidence.
Yeah. The problem here is that, is it possible for someone to get that hand without anyone cheating?
Absolutely.
How did you determine that it's more probable that I cheated than that I didn't? Now, you can't just go by the odds of the hand. You're now making a claim that I cheated. So how did you determine that it's more probable than not that I cheated?
Do I know you in advance?
Sure. And
Okay, well, then
not only do you know me, but you know that I'm really good with cards and I'm a magician, and that it was possible for me to deal you a royal straight flush. How did you determine that it's more probable that I cheated than that I didn't? You cannot reach a reasonable conclusion based on the information that it's more probable than not that I cheated, because you cannot rule out the fact that I didn't cheat. And as long as that remains a possibility, you can say, I suspect you cheated. You're free to do that. But you cannot reasonably conclude that it's more likely than not that I cheated until you have additional information. Same for God.
You cannot conclude by the information that it's more probable than not that I cheated. Well, there you have it. Therein lies that free will that he gave to every man. Therein lies that choice. You present all of this information before one person, and this person says, based on all of this information, I choose to believe that there is a God. I choose to believe that there is no way that even if science and all of these things come into play and you just throw them in a ring all by themselves, that they would come up with all of these things. I choose to believe that there is a mind behind this. There is a creator. And you present it before someone else and they say, based on this information, I choose to believe that these things could come together and do this on their own. After millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years, they would get it right. They would finally realize that we need blood, we need bones, we need fingers, we need toes. I choose to believe that we cannot say that a God intervened. Therein lies what he gives to all men, free will.
And so if there is a God, this God has arranged things such that you can never reasonably conclude it exists.
There is a God. He has arranged things so that you cannot reasonably conclude that he exists. Imagine Jesus walked this earth. Even if you're a non-believer, a skeptic, you cannot say Jesus did not walk the earth. He walked the earth. He came here. And still, with that historical data, people can still arrive at the conclusion that there is no God. But it's no surprise, because even when he was right in the faces of men, speaking to them face to face, they also denied him and told him that his power came from Beelzebub, told him that he is the devil, as some people even today call him. So it's no wonder, it's no surprise that people would still say, oh, there is not enough evidence for us to conclude, for us to reasonably conclude that there is a God. There is some evidence that's coming up. People think that they can just say there is no God, and you get that off your chest, and then you just live as though there is no God, and that falls to reality that in your mind there is no God. So that means in real that there is no God as well. God just has to cease to exist, because in my mind he can't exist. The God of this world, the little g God of this world, Satan himself, has blinded the minds of so many people. And God himself resists the proud. So when you come to God with that attitude, well, God, you don't even exist, then so shall it be for you. But rest assured that one day you will find out, that you were so wrong. You were so wrong, but your proud and stubborn heart would never have permitted you to see that. It would never have permitted you to realize that.
You think it's a reasonable reason to go to the Bible?
No.
Okay, that was the point of my question.
I went to the Bible because I was an atheist for years after problems with my parents, and then became a Christian because of a supernatural encounter. But obviously I have no way of proving that.
This caller is particularly dear to my heart because he used to be an atheist for many years, and he had a supernatural experience. But I am guessing, I don't know, I am guessing that while he was an atheist, he probably scoffed at the idea of a supernatural experience. And now he's on the other side. He's calling in and he's saying, well, I was an atheist and I had a supernatural experience. But for many atheists, when people say that the supernatural realm is real, it may be something that they feel, what are you talking about? There's no proof for these things. And they get laughed off the stage. But you don't know when it's going to be your turn to have a supernatural experience. Fortunately for him, it happened while he is still alive and breathing. But for a host of atheists, it happens after they cross over into eternity and they realize it's too late. It's too late. Fortunately for him, he was able to see while he's still breathing in this flesh and blood that God is real. And I'm sure that he probably goes back in his thoughts and thinks, wow, this is something that I used to laugh at. This is something I used to doubt. Because listen to what he said. He said, I guess I can't prove that. God has left enough. Even if nobody ever has a supernatural experience, he has left enough in this universe that he has made for us to know this could not have assembled itself. This could not have assembled itself. He has left enough. So don't bank on having a supernatural experience of your own. But just know this. His word says Every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. So even if you spend your whole life denying him, cussing him out, saying there is no God, there's not enough proof, there's not enough evidence, go home and get more documents, God. We don't have enough proof for you right now. You would soon find that the one who's in the hot water is not God. It has been you all along. It was never God.
And
God
just
of the
because
Bible's a
every law
mass
of the Bible is
murderer
given for
if the
our
stories are
benefit.
true, which is worse.
Yeah.
Well, there's not really mass murder in the Bible.
Other than, God and Moses and what about the Amalekites who were to be wiped from the earth in all memory, and then we wrote it down so that we couldn't forget after saying I think that you don't actually know your Bible.
Oh, I know it very well. See, you're implying that these were humans, that these were natural humans that were killed, right? And I know I'm being laughed at, but I'm sure you're familiar with the verse that says the sons of God came down and had intercourse with the daughters of man and thus created the heroes of old, which many theologians and scholars believe were probably giants. And, one of the reasons that in Native American culture they raise their hand and whatever it's to make sure that you only have 5 fingers on your hand and not 6.
Mass murder in the Bible. And he laughs. He doesn't even know. But this caller knows. This caller knows why these people were killed. Yes. Nephilim. When the angels had relations with women and created beings that are not legally authorized on the earth. God does not authorize that type of union. And yes, there are still many. There are still many on the earth right now. They're walking around in bodysuits like these. They look like human beings, but they're not. They weren't all killed. But one day they will all be killed. They will all be destroyed in the lake of fire. But they weren't all killed. So before you go around accusing God of being a mass murderer, do your homework and understand why certain beings were destroyed. And the rest of them who survived will also be destroyed. You don't know God. You want to pass judgment on God as though you are higher than he is. You will give an account for every single word that you've spoken against the Most High God. Every single word. There's a book with your name, and there is a record of everything that you say, you do, you think. You think that you're just living and there's nothing, you just pass over and that you just die and that's it. You don't know how meticulous this God is by now? You've never taken the time to find out. Just look at your body alone and you would see how meticulous he is. Your strands of hair coming out of your head, he says everyone is numbered. He's meticulous. And you think that you're going to live this life and you're going to say as you want, live as you please, deny him all your days, call him a mass murderer and all of these other things. And you have no judgment. God is not willing that any should perish, which is why he sent Jesus to the earth. But for all who refuse that salvation, there are no options left. Hell was not prepared for men. But all those who want to follow Satan will go where he lives, where he will end up, in that lake of fire. Hell also is going to be cast into the lake of fire. So it's going to be even worse than hell. The lake of fire is worse than hell. You think this is a joke? You think this is a plaything? You think this is a myth? You think this is a matter of, well, I don't believe that, so on to the next. Hell doesn't care what you believe. The lake of fire isn't waiting around for your opinion. And the Most High God surely isn't waiting around for you to believe him into existence. You had your chance. While you're on the earth, this is the time that you have. Use it wisely. use it wisely. That's my warning. I'm warning souls because there are many who are in hell right now who wish they could have another chance. The breath that you're breathing right now, if they can just have 1 minute of that breath, they would say, Jesus is Lord, without hesitation. But it is too late. You're going to go there and meet them. You didn't believe? You're going to go there and meet them. But it's going to be too late. Make the right choice. He said, I've set before you life and death. Choose life. Choose life. Until next time, choose life.